So we're going to talk about, you've started investing again. Before that, though, the audience wants to know a little bit more about your story, right?
Do they?
I think they do. So first off, let's start with, Mark Ainley as a kid. What did you think you're going to be when you were growing up? Like, you're 8 years old. Are you all over like, hey, I'm going to be a fireman? What were you thinking?
It was all those. It was, watching TJ Hooker. You want to be the policeman.
You're dating yourself for most of the listeners.
Man, no one knows that. All those different what was that, Chips? The California Highway Patrol. Like all those, like just made me want to be a police officer. And then you got into Lethal Weapon 1 and Lethal Weapon 2, and that totally glorified being a police officer. So I definitely wanted to be a police officer, and then being a firefighter. And then it ended up being like a teacher. I'm like, hey, I could be a teacher. I can do stuff in the summer. I can do stuff at night. So that was it. And then I also wanted, I don't know if it was the movie Wall Street or some version of the different, Hollywood glorifying, just Wall Street and money and all that. I wanted to be a stockbroker. And it wasn't until probably high school where I had a family friend that was a stockbroker, and he said, "Kid, do anything but that." And at the time, the internet was around the corner, and day trading and all the automation that happens now. Like being a stockbroker just isn't what it used to be, and nor do I think it was ever what I actually thought it would be. So It was more money, suits. I just thought that was the cool thing.
Yeah. All right. So you mentioned being a teacher. Going back, I know you're a history buff. Was history your favorite class? Like, what was your favorite class, or do you have a favorite teacher from growing up?
I always liked history because it was easier. I always hated science because I don't know. There's just the words were bigger. They're harder to memorize. Yeah, and there's always a lot of words that are the same. I always, gym was always natural, but yeah, math was always a struggle. Math I always hated because it was always cumulative. It was built on top of each other. If you don't learn this lesson now, you struggle with next week. And then, so you fall behind early in the year, you're copying from everyone for the rest of the year. That's the reality of that.
That's how we should have done the podcast.
Yeah.
We should have started with, by episode 500, you're doing some crazy land deals.
But I was always a fairly good student. I guess if I was my own parent, I would have said I didn't apply myself enough. I always just got, it was easy for me to get A's, B's, and every so often I threw a C in there. But I think the ironic part is, I think my junior year of high school, me and all the guys took foods class, and we all failed.
How?
We just messed around, and our French toast dip turned into like soup because we put one cup versus one teaspoon. Like it was a mess. But that was my worst grade in high school was foods class.
All right, now do you cook at home or no?
No, I don't.
All
so
right.
There's definitely, that was a foretelling story in that.
Okay. All right. So what, going back to your high school buddies, how would they describe you as a 16-year-old Mark Ainley?
Oh, man. You know what? I grew up in a neighborhood, or I grew up in Addison, but I grew up in what I would say is the other side of the tracks, part of Addison, where our group of friends we almost were United Nations. We had one clique of friends from every single one. So, a lot of times we just end up making fun of each other all day.
There you go.
But the whole, 16-year-old Mark, I was probably just chasing girls and trying to work out and trying to just keep active. I'm similar today of like, I can't sit down. I can't. So I grew up as an only child. I got stepbrothers and half brothers, but I grew up by myself, so I was always trying to entertain myself, which that then just was, I was trying to keep busy. And maybe that might be something that's helped me in the entrepreneurial world, is I always want to keep going. I always want to keep trying new things, want to figure out how to do things. But 16-year-old me just couldn't sit down. And I don't think that's changed today either.
No, I agree with that. You're tough even these podcasts, like it's tough for us both to this one-on-one. This might be a little rough.
Well, that's why I like these in-person ones, because the in-person ones, like, we have to
yes, there's no distraction. You got to be here.
And I can look you in your eyes and all that stuff.
It's a little weird. All right, actually, this is when let's go back to chasing girls. So this is actually when I knew we became close friends. Is you showed me a picture of you in Cancun with frosted tips and hookah shells, and that's when I knew, like, all right, this guy actually trusts me, because like that is not a flattering pic. All right, so high school ends.
We will not be adding that to show notes.
No, I think I have a screenshot. I have a picture of the picture because for listeners out there, we didn't have cell phones back then.
No.
You had to get the disposable camera if you went on vacation.
I came back from Acapulco and it took me 7 days to get it developed and all that stuff. And half of them were garbage and the other half were off-centered. And so.
All right. So after high school, what's next, right? Where I know you go out to LA for a little bit and anything happens in between there?
Well, so I went to, I grew up in Addison. My senior year, I moved to Schaumburg. And I drove, senior year, you're allowed to live anywhere. You could at least get a pass by not living in the district. So I ended up driving to Addison every single day. And that killed me. It killed me because I wasn't getting paid. That was like my mindset. It's like, man. So I found a way to graduate early. And then I just started working that second semester while everyone else was still in school. And I worked at a hotel, and I got a second job working, and I had a trucking company, which ultimately was the only other kind of call it career type job I ever had. But with studies, as soon as everyone went away to school, I ended up going to Harper. And that was the best and worst thing ever for me. Harper was everyone that stuck around here ended up going to College DuPage or Triton. And I ended up, it was a whole new group of people, a whole new set of friends, and I've always been pretty social or try to find the gatherings and it definitely found me there. So I left Harper after a year with half a credit, and I don't know how I got half a credit.
That doesn't make any sense.
I don't even know. It wasn't even a half credit class. I don't know if they're like, man, we feel bad for this guy. Let's give him half a credit. So I remember when I ended up going to DeVry, and they're like, do you have a transcript to send? I'm like, I don't have anything. Nothing. I totally tried to wipe that out. But working, just kind of, I kept working, grinding, a couple jobs. I was trying to, I was traveling. I was trying to do a lot of stuff, but at the same time trying to figure it out. We ended up, 20 years old getting distribution rights to some fiber medical drink that was made in Mexico from somebody that, we tried to set up a distribution center here.
This sounds totally legit.
We had that. We started the construction company, Atlantis Builders, that we actually still use that name, that LLC today, but we started that for a while there. But, I ended up, all my friends went away to school. Life was, just kind of getting boring. And it was February 13th, 2001. And I remember I'm like, man, this sucks. I had a long day. It was my birthday. I came out of school, and my car wouldn't start. It was cold, and I was like, screw this, man. I got to get out of here. And my buddy, my best friend, Jimmy, his brother went to California like 2 years before. He's like, dude, let's move there. I'm like, dude, your brother just went there for the weekend. Like, come on. So I called him up that night. I said, hey, listen, I'm calling your bluff. I called him from my Primeco phone in the parking lot of DeVry. I said, as my car wouldn't start, I said, I'm calling your bluff. Let's go to California. So we actually got 5 of us together and went to California a couple months later. And, jumped in the car. The 3-day trip ended up taking and about 14 days to get there because we didn't make it past Springfield, Illinois the first night. We went to Hooters, met some people, went to a party, crashed there for a night. It was crazy, but it was great stories. But I went to LA and I realized the big part about that experience for me was I realized how much I love Chicago. And maybe that's some of what comes out here in the podcast, but I realized, the whole I got a guy thing. I went out there. I was getting ripped out for everything. I remember going in for an oil change. It's like $233. Like, how the hell did that happen? But I had nobody for anything out there, and getting work was hard. Here I could have at 18. I call a couple people and I could get multiple jobs in a day's time. I couldn't get anything. The the labor force was much different out there in California. But after just about a year, I remember my breaking point. There's all the distraction in California too. I mean, when we were living in LA, you got Hollywood, you got Santa Barbara, you got, what do you want to do tonight? I don't know. Let's go to Vegas. It's and then there comes, how fast can we get to Vegas? We used to time ourselves flying through the desert. But you go to Santa Barbara, you go to Tijuana, like San Diego. There's just so much distraction. So I remember standing in line of Bank of America with my final savings bond that I got from growing up, cashing it in so I could go out that night. In addition to the 10 grand credit card that I built up in that short time. And I said, man, I got to go home, but I'm going to have an epic night tonight. So I had a great night that night. You end up out there, you party with rock stars, you see famous people. It was a good time. It was a great experience. That was my going away to college experience. And I came back, I remember that next morning I called my boss at the time of the trucking company. I remember sitting in the hot tub of our little apartment complex. I said, would you accept me back? He's like, yes. So I made that call first before I called my dad and said, I failed.
Yeah.
I failed, but I got a job. I'm coming back and help me get home. And that was a big experience for me. And then it wasn't far after that I came back to that job. I met my current business partner now, Brian, like shortly after that at that trucking company. We started doing things on the side and just started kind of opportunities just started, I started just busting chops and got licensed shortly after and so forth.